Alrighty, so I'm going to do sort of like a highlights video for what they showed off with the new live stream. If you're unaware, they did a live stream this morning to show off the new Ragnarok update, and we got a new demonic beast, a new character, and a couple new relics, which are basically the things of note, like the actual noteworthy stuff. I will be going over the actual patch notes in full depth whenever they come out for global, so I'm just going to try to hit the highlights here on the JP patch notes, because I always find it a little bit more, it's cool to see the new stuff and everything, but without the full translations and everything and getting all the information where I can actually understand it. And once they'll get this update on JP and KR tomorrow, which means that I'll actually get to see some of the stuff in action on YouTube videos and stuff like that going forward, right before we get it on global, which should be on Tuesday. So let's go over some of the stuff. We have a couple of highlights picked out from the live stream as well as the patch notes and everything here. So obviously we are getting the new Freya unit, which everybody was super excited about, and was really looking forward to, I think, just because she have big booba, which simple fan base. Booba equals good unit, of course. So we are getting the new unit. We do have some rough skill translations. So unfortunately, the problem with getting to this stuff this early is that Grand Cross Database hasn't translated it yet, but we can go over the actual character herself. We have, like I said, these are rough translations, so they could be a little bit different going forward, but she has a single target flood card, which is this one right here, which is okay. It really didn't look the greatest in the showcase. We'll look at the little bit of the gameplay here in a second. She has an AoE Pierce card, which is pretty good. I think AoE Pierce cards in general are just pretty good in general. I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but it actually works out really nicely because she actually boosts attack related stats and pierce rate a little bit, so we'll get into that in a second. But her ultimate is very interesting. It has wave and abyss on it, so if you're unaware, we can go to characters over here. If we go to 11, which hasn't been talked about in absolutely forever. She actually has a wave skill, which is damage dealt equals damage dealt is minus 4% per enemy on the battlefield. So you want less units on the battlefield, which I think is just a really weird skill in general. It's just kind of like a negative instead of it being a good thing, but I guess on the positive end, like it has a pretty high multiplier. Like this is at 6.6, it does 1350%, so that's quite a lot. And at the low end, you can see down here, it is at 725%. But it has Abyss as well, which is really, really good if you're not aware. Abyss is what Rimuru and Old School Festival King has, and just the wording on it is, Abyss inflicts additional damage equal to 30% of the damage dealt on all enemies at the start of the enemy's turn. Only applies the Abyss effect on the last used hero. So it's basically a buff that's going to go on Freya, if you don't know, and it's basically just going to linger for a turn or two. Like, depending on the damage you deal in the initial hit, it's going to hit again at the start of the enemy's turn. So starts at a 25% and goes all the way up to a 50%. So this is a pretty whale heavy kind of character, I think, as far as like ultimates go. But then again, Freyja was also kind of whale heavy with him having a death ultimate, so it's not really anything new. The banner itself isn't super great, but it's pretty much what you would expect from a Ragnarok banner. So you have her, and then all of the other Ragnarok sort of units here. We have a bunch of the we actually don't have Red Thonar in here. No, we do have Red Thonar. I'm overlooking it, obviously. No Wedding Brunhild or anything, so no seasonal units, it doesn't look like, but we have, I would say this is a pretty okay lineup. It's not anything super crazy, of course, but if you need any sort of, demonic beast units or anything, they're in here, and obviously the new character's cool. Dupes for Freyja is great. If you can get dupes for Ragnarok Bond, good backline unit, blah, 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 all the good stuff. So it is a 600 banner, unfortunately, which is what a lot of people in my stream were kind of worried about, the fact that we're getting this unit right after Escanor and Melee, and, like, there's a cosmetic sale going on, so there's a lot of stuff that you've been able to spend gems on in the last little bit. So let's watch a little bit of the gameplay here. Honestly, she looks okay. She doesn't look exceptionally great. The biggest concern that we had on stream was the fact that they're going against the Goddess team for whatever reason. The Goddess team is not really even meta at the moment. Like, they are okay. I've seen a couple of Goddess teams in the last few weeks, but by far the weakest team that I've seen in the meta, compared to, you know, the Ultimate Escanor, and the Demon team right now is absolutely insane. So we have her on the field. She does actually have the leopard, like the cat, with her, which I think is really cool. It's actually her attack piece, so all of her costumes and stuff like that actually give skins and stuff like that to the cat, which I think is really cool. But you can see here he's going to use... Oh, I don't think I went over the entire unit. So her passive... My bad, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. The passive is roughly she gets 7% attack-related stats per Ragnarok character, and they do look at her stats a little bit in this battle here. And she gets 4% pierce rate per debuff with a maximum of 20%. So she gets quite a bit of pierce rate and just attack-related stats in general, and that's, you know, it synergizes a lot with the Ragnarok team in general. So she's not, from my understanding, she's not locked to PvP, which is good, but she seems like she's going to be pretty PvP heavy. You can see there the AoE Pierce card does some pretty good damage, 500k, which then again, this is weird circumstances. They're using the Goddess team, which, like I said, is kind of not the greatest team to showcase this against. Plus, they're in 4v4, so there's a lot more, there's 2 extra debuffs on the field than there would be a whole extra character to calculate damage with. So, I don't know really what the point of this showcase being so weird was. Like, the 4v4 and the Goddess thing kind of throws it off a little bit, but if we go to the next turn, he puts up the Tarmiel stance here, and then we actually get to see the Freya Flood card, and it doesn't look super impressive, but I can't tell. Okay, so here you can see she has 40k attack. That's plus 19%. And we have, I think the top one is pierce rate, so plus 48% pierce rate, and then the other two, I think it's crit chance and crit damage because of the attack-related stats. So they're getting a 20% or 28% boost, so pretty decent there. I think that she can definitely, you know, dish out some good damage, I would think, but I don't know. I just don't know if she'll actually be able to compete with the current meta of the game. But we're gonna see the Flood card. It's not very good, 46k, and then because of the Tarmiel stance, it does a little bit more afterwards. She obviously was missing HP there, but she also has 3 attack boosts as well from Sigurd's debuffs and everything. I don't know. I just don't know what to expect really from that. And then obviously they set it up basically perfectly so that way they can get the ultimate off. So he puts a level 2 extort on the field, then uses the ultimate, and I mean, I have to say the ultimate looks cool. It's the same one from the story, but I think they've updated it a little bit with the animations and everything. It does 1,000,000 damage on all 4 of them, and then you can see the cool ring on the ground, like, you know, for the abyss effect, and then obviously it swaps around to the enemy turn and kills the other 2 units. So I don't know. She looks interesting. She looks pretty cool. The fact that we're getting another Abyss Ultimate character could be really good for just general play, because I think the fact that she's not like a festival character or anything like that, she's not seasonal, she's not a collab unit like Rimuru is, if you can get this character and max her ultimate out, she could be really good for like fast farming and stuff like that for final bosses and stuff in the future. I know that Rimuru has been a big character lately for just like, oh, if you have 6/6 Rimuru or whatever, you can, you know, farm this final boss insanely fast. So she could be a good alternative in that regard. Not positive though. The fact that she has a wave ultimate might hinder that a little bit, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So that's basically the character in the banner. The other things to note, of course, is we're getting a new demonic beast. We are getting Nidhogg, which is a dragon. And he looks really crazy, honestly. They did a little bit of a showcase here, and I have to say, I don't really know what to expect. All of the demonic beasts are really, like, crazy hard looking whenever they first come out, of course, and this one is definitely no exception. So, things to note here is that when they get into the battle, they're using a weird team here. They're using Trader Melly, Freyr, Scotty, and Elizabeth, which... it makes a little bit of sense in hindsight. This boss deals with a lot of DOT effects, like damage over time. So it puts bleed, poison, Stuff like that on you, which is definitely something to kind of worry about. You need to have a cleansing unit and everything, so you can see the cinematic here with the dragon and everything. And I think the stage itself is really cool because you're on like this floating like pirate ship, which I'm not sure what the story like lore behind that is, but yeah, they do really bad in this fight. As always, the JP stream never really does a great showcase for whatever reason, but you can see here that it is a 3-phase fight. It is a dark unit boss, so it's dark attribute, which is very interesting. You're basically fighting like this weird looking plant in phase 1, which is kind of interesting. You can see the actual like dragon sort of tail going down the back in the background. They end up losing Freyja turn 1 here in the beginning. I'm not going to show too much of this just because it's going to take up a lot of time. But do a retry at some point, and they are actually able to get into phase 2 if this thing will load. And going into phase 2... Sorry, they are in this a lot longer than I remember them being. Okay, so yeah, this is where they get to the actual phase 2, and you'll be able to see some really cool stuff like I think the dragon just becomes a little bit more like prevalent in the background, so you can see once they're in phase 2 you're fighting this weird like sort of humanoid-esque looking thing, but it's got all these like weird tendrils with spikes on them and everything, and you can see the dragon up here in the top, which I think is really cool. And I can only imagine phase 3 is them fighting the actual dragon, but they didn't make it that far. They literally they died on turn 1 or like phase 1. They make it into phase 2 finally. He does like an extort, and then he just like does this really big move to one-shot Freyja basically. So it's definitely going to be something to worry about. I think he's going to be really tough, really hard. There's the new materials for it. We do have some new outfits for Freyja, which look really good, I think. We get a new card set, which is, I think it's 10% or a maximum of 10% damage taken, or damage reduction, sorry. Like you take 10% less damage for Ragnarok characters on the field, which is good, I guess. They are adding 2 new dog cards, which is probably going to be for a card set for the dragon eventually. We are getting 4 new holy relics. At first, they just showed these 3 demon relics, which I thought was okay, and then out of nowhere, they were like, hey, we're also doing a king relic, which I think is really cool, because king is a cool character, and we haven't really been able to use him at all lately, so... yeah, let's go over the relics really quickly. We have them right here. So Zeldris this is old school Zeldris, by the way. This is like, you know, red and blue Zeldris. It is, when he loses ult gauge, for every decreased ult gauge, increases basic stats by 6% up to 5 times. So if you don't know, that Zeldris' commandment basically is if you move a card, you lose an ultimate move gauge, so you can basically use that to your advantage to boost his basic stats. When we were talking about it in stream, I don't know how good this is actually going to be, considering the fact that, you know, you're already kind of in a bind on whether you should use Festival Zeldris or Ominous Nebula Zeldris when it comes to the demon team at the moment. I really don't think that this relic is good enough for you to really even want to worry about using old Zeldris, so kind of a swing and a miss on that one as far as I'm concerned. Next up we have Fraudrin, which is literally just an increase on basic stats. So that is actually really, I don't know, kind of disappointing to be honest, but it makes a little bit of sense. So the blue Fraudrin, you are probably never going to use a relic on him to begin with, because why would you? You're literally wanting him to die as fast as possible. But the green Fraudrin's passive is if you out-CC the opponent, their ultimate move gauge is locked for, I think, 2 turns. So he's kind of like a CC-heavy unit, kind of like Ludociel is. It's alright, I guess. The fact that he gets no extra like effects or anything from it, it's just basic stats or whatever, or just stats, isn't great. Like, he, as a unit, doesn't have the greatest of cards or anything like that. Really doubt he's going to be that useful at all. And then we got Melascula, who is units with Immortal, which is her buff that you get whenever you hit 1 HP. Like, whenever you would have died, you basically stay at 1 HP instead. Gets 30% attack-related stat boost for every Ignite effect on the enemy, increases allies' basic stats by 3%, 5 times. Up to 5 times. So decent little basic stat increase, I guess. If they're not attacking or whatever, they gain ignites from her commandment. And then the 30% attack related stats boost is pretty interesting. I can't recall if there's even any like relevant characters in the moment or in the meta at the moment that really remove buffs or anything like that. But if this becomes popular, I'm sure people will run buff removal because it's just a blue buff that she puts on. So kind of interesting. And then last but not least, we have the Chad King, who is increases damage dealt by 15%, which is pretty decent, and then units with the shield get 15% basic stat boost. So that could be pretty good, actually. Just like he's always been kind of supporty in general, like with the whole shield aspect. So this kind of like helps solidify that a little bit more. You know, you can just throw out an attack, you know, right at the beginning, give all of your characters a shield. They also gain 15% basic stats at that point. Then you can kind of use them to deal the damage and everything. So kind of interesting. Hopefully we'll get some new fairy support or something like that in the future, so that way we can kind of get him back in the meta maybe. I don't know if that's really going to be enough to bring him back in at the moment, but I don't know. We'll kind of have to wait and see. We are getting Freya as a login character, some new bundles and stuff, of course. They're doing some quality of life updates, which are actually kind of nice. But we'll go over those more in the global patch notes. We're getting a login bonus because the new boss is coming out. They're giving away 1 free Nidhogg's relic worth of materials, which is good because you can use this to get Thonar's relic, which makes the dogs way easier than if you don't have it. So I definitely recommend you buy Thonar's with this, but if you don't plan on doing the dogs at all, there was a couple of people in the stream chat who were saying that they kind of wanted to get King's relic instead. Honestly, you can make your own judgment call, but I highly recommend Thonar's relic be the one that you get. Personally, we are getting a new bingo event, of course. Some nice, I think we get a free outfit for Freya. And there's also the new card packs and stuff like that we're getting. They're getting a new Hawk Pass with a Demon Cusack outfit, so that's kind of nice. We should be getting the Chandler one for our update, and then that's pretty much it. So they're also adding a new trait for God that Freya is going to be categorized in. This is a trait as in like Ragnarok is a trait, commandments are a trait. It's just basically like a categorized thing that you can sort of sort your box by. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, pretty decent update. I think as far as like updates go, it wasn't like maybe the most hype thing you've ever seen, but we are getting a new Ragnarok chapter, of course, as well. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It looked really cool. They showed off a little bit of Tyr in the live stream with the just like teasing the new chapter, which made me think that we were going to be getting Tyr, which I would have been really excited for. But I think Big Booba Lady is a nice compromise there. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. Obviously, the content-wise, the story chapter is cool and everything, but the boss is going to be really inaccessible for the first couple of months, probably, until we get a unit that will help with it, and then that unit will have to get a holy relic to make it easier. So, I don't know. It's pretty okay, I think. New character's kind of cool. Relics are cool. Very cool. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was a little lengthy, but you know, a lot to go over. So yeah, feel free to subscribe and all that good stuff. I will see you guys in the next one.